talk about is we're going to talk about how to control different distances, okay? It's very hard for me to take my 52-degree wedge, make my normal length backswing, and try to hit it anything below 110 yards. So we have to understand how to control the length of the swing, right? So first and foremost, the easy way is to learn how to shorten it, right? I like to use a clock system. That's what I was taught growing up. You can thank a guy by the name of Dave Pelz. Okay, he produced a book called The Short Game Bible. He wanted people to control the length of the swing like you were standing in the middle of a clock. So down here with the club at the ground would be 6 o'clock. If my left arm was pointed straight up, that would be 12 o'clock. Okay, does that make sense? So you have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? Most people cannot get past 10. That's okay, as long as you know how to control it, right? So if I hit my normal shot, you're gonna watch how high and how much further this goes. I'm a guy that doesn't get past about 1030. That's about as long as I can make it. Ball goes up nice and high because of the loft. That goes a lot further. So when I start playing around with things and I need to hit this shorter, right, not lower, but closer to me, then I have to know, how do I control this? With my wedges, I spend about 80% of the time trying to hit shorter shots. Very rare do I ever hit a wedge that's full. It's really, really, really hard with the amount of loft that we have to get you to do that. Does that make sense? So I practice from the bottom up. And I like to do this where I hit 3 or 4 golf balls with what I feel is an 8 o'clock length backswing, where this points at what would be an 8, right? So 8 o'clock, I will always, when I'm hitting a shorter shot, bring my feet closer together, okay? When I get the feet wider and I start turning my body more, it makes it easier to create length. When I bring the feet closer together, it makes it easier to shorten it, okay? So 8 o'clock swing, feet closer together. My 52-degree wedge, that goes about 45 yards, right? Now, if I wanted to get this to go further, right? Like my full shot goes 115 with this. My 8 o'clock goes 45. If I wanted to go to 9 o'clock, stance gets a little wider. Left arm to 9 o'clock. That goes about 90, right? So I have a 45, I have a 90, I have a 115 with this, and I have 3 different length swings. If I did this with my sand wedge goes about 90 full, or 10 o'clock. At 9 o'clock, it goes about 75. And at 8 o'clock, it goes about 30. With my pitching wedge at 8 o'clock goes about 55 to 60. At 9 o'clock, it goes about 120. At full, it goes about 135. So if I charted that all out and I get up there, it's like, oh, cool. Which swing with which wedge do I have that matches the yardage that I have into the green? So it becomes really easy to select what club you're trying to do and then what swing to have. Does that make sense? So I would start with 8, 9, and 10. As you progress, you can actually institute more, right? Like tour pros have, I would probably call them 30s. They could go 7, they could go 730, they could go 8, they could go 830, they could go 9, they could go 930. They have like 8 yardages with every wedge. They have to be super, super, super precise. Depending on your skill level, you could get there, but it's not always necessary depending on the golfer that you are. Does that make sense? Let's talk trajectory. We have a severe wind into us, right? So what happens if I hit my stock shot into the wind? What's it going to do? Exactly. It's going to balloon up into the air and the wind's going to push it backwards. It's not going to go as far, right? So it'd be easier to get my normal yardage if I could get this thing to come out on a more piercing trajectory, right? So My standard launch angle with my 52-degree wedge when I hit it full is somewhere between 27, 28 degrees. If I can get this to launch at like 22, I can keep the wind from knocking it out of the air and it'll actually pierce through it. Think of a fighter jet taking off, right? Takes off like this. I don't want it to look like the St. Louis Arch. Okay, does that make sense? So when we start playing with trajectory, a lot of what we change is we change the ball position on the ground and we change our handle location in order to adjust the loft, right? Now, when I want to hit one standard, my golf ball in relation to my sternum is usually on it to slightly forward of it, okay? When I want to hit one low, I'll generally move it, depending on how low I want to hit it, I will generally move it anywhere from 1 to 3 golf balls backwards in my stance, okay? The further back I put it, the further forward my handle gets. So now I'm taking 52 degrees and turning it into 40, right? The more forward I push it, the less loft I have, the lower that ball's going to come out, right? Now that's also usually going to make the ball want to hook a little bit. So anytime you're playing your aim on that, I kind of have to adjust for it, right? But you guys have seen my standard ball flight. If I move the ball back in the stance and try to hit one lower, and then I keep the follow through short, that ball came out. The other one was sky high. That one came out about 10, 12 degrees lower. They both went the same distance, even though it flew lower and the follow through was sawed off shorter. That's just to help me keep my handle forward so that I don't add loft. Does that make sense? So we shorten the follow through to control the loft. That's what we're trying to do. Does that make sense? So I'm going to say it again. Handle forward, keeping it forward and short controls the loft. If I release the club, most people don't release the club properly. Okay, I don't like the term, but they'll release the club and they'll add loft. Well, now it doesn't matter if the ball's back in my stance, that ball's going to go super high up into the air, right? Wind's going to knock it down, we're in trouble, right? Does that make sense? Let's talk about if we weren't into the wind, how would we hit it higher? Well, one, this is a wedge, it's going to go high anyway. But let's say I need this to just make sure it stops a little bit quicker and it doesn't go too far, right? Instead of playing the ball back in the stance, there's normal. I could move the ball forward a little bit. Consequently, my handle is going to be more straight up and down. So now I'm actually adding loft, or at least using all 52 degrees worth, right, to help me hit the ball much, much higher. Now, when I do that, the club is going to sweep the ground a little more, right? So your divot's going to get smaller, okay? The risk of moving a wedge too far forward in your stance is that you might catch it thin on the bottom of the face, okay? So be very, very careful and make sure that you're not putting it too far forward, right? But if I was to hit one higher, now that the wind has calmed down just a little bit, handle more straight up and down, ball slightly forward. Stock one launches about 28, low one launches about 20. That one launched at like 35, right? Anytime I hit it higher, it's gonna go shorter, okay? So when you're messing with your arc length to control distance, learning to do that with different ball positions gives you all your in-between yardages, right? Like before, my 9 o'clock to my 8 o'clock was 50 yards different, right? Goes from 90 to 40. Well, how do I play anything in between? I move the ball forward and I change the loft, right? So now the ball comes out higher, but it's going to come out 75 with 9 o'clock. It's going to come out shorter than 40 if it's the 7 o'clock. From my full swing, it might come out closer to 100. So now I start filling in gaps. Does that make sense? Simply because it was asked prior. When do we know which wedge to use, right? If you have your distances with each length, you need to have that with every wedge in your bag. I have it with my 56, my 52, my 48, even my 9-iron, okay? That way, the less loft I use, the ball flight will always be lower than it will with the next club up, right? So my sand wedge is 56 degrees. My pitching wedge is 48. I have 8 degrees of loft different. The pitching wedge is going to fly lower, right? But it's also going to go further. So we change the club to help you hit that yardage you need. But if you can track these yardages on a little chart, I keep that little chart in my golf bag, so when I go to the golf course, I put it on the steering wheel of my cart. So when I shoot my yardage on the course and it's 75 yards, if I don't have my chart memorized, which I don't expect you to, reference your chart and go find what's closest to 75 yards, and then look at it and be like, awesome, I have a club, I have this length swing, hit that shot. Okay? If you have two of them, right, that are close together, if the pin's tucked right behind a bunker, we probably want to hit it a little higher, right? Versus if I have the ball in the back of the green and the wind's in a little bit, I might want to hit the one that helps hit it just a little bit lower but still gets that yardage, okay?